On this episode of the Radio Shop, we have a Grunow Model 654 Tombstone. Right here. The cabinet is in pretty decent shape. Scuffs, some scratches. A little bit of scratch in there of the finish, but not too terribly bad. Grill cloth is in pretty good shape. Turning it around. All the tubes appear to be there. Somebody has cut the thing off to make it safer. Little bit of rubber coated wire here. There's a blue wire and a red wire, and that's all I see so far, but there could be more once I get into the chassis. Rubber coated wire. Not exactly sure what this is. I haven't pulled the schematic yet. And here's a long wire antenna somebody has placed on this. There's probably a ground wire and an antenna. But we're going to dig into it here in just a bit on this episode of the Radio Shop. So stay tuned. Here we go. Here's the inside of the chassis, the underside of the chassis of the Grunow 654 6N chassis. As your typical wax capacitors that need to be replaced. Some had been replaced at some point in time in their life. That one and that one are not original, most likely. And this Mallory here and that one there, probably not either. A few dog bone resistors. And I've got a few capacitors that just have part numbers on them and no size. So I'm going to have to figure those out before continuing on. And here's the crumbly power cord, which we'll put a new one on there before we continue on. So that's where we look at. I'm going to gather my parts, and then we will continue here. So, be back in a few. One item to note here in this set is it has a 1.5 volt bias cell that provides the bias to the 6Q7 tube so that it performs correctly, and this will need to be replaced because this won't be any good. It will have a long time ago not had any, and there's really no way to measure them because they're such a low current drain that there's really no way to measure it. So I'm going to replace it with a 1.5 volt AAA, if I can find a brand that's not going to bust open and corrode. But I will probably put in a AAA battery holder, a single AAA battery holder into the place of that, since there's room in this chassis for me to do that. So this strange device here, which is a switch that was out here on the edge of the cabinet, was where somebody wired in at one point in time an input switch, like for a phono or whatnot. It's just a switch, and they had put it in here. This green wire and this yellow wire goes right there. That's the input to the volume control. So they would switch it between radio and whatever the input. They would clip to these fan stock clips, or however you pronounce them. They put their input there, so they would have an input on the radio besides just the radio. But I'm going to remove it because it's in such disarray. I've got rubber coated wiring, I've got unused wiring hanging off here, rubber coated wiring, and I'm going to remove it, and we're going to continue because this set did not have any other rubber coated wiring in it. But I'm going to remove this because here's that bias cell. I'm going to remove this, and we're going to go from there.
7 to 5. It was 2-0 Windsor after 1. Olsen to meet. Coming to Philippines. He said public schools in the global economy. Yeah, thank you. firm, right?
Screening, but it won't stop cancer. Early detection can save your life. Don't wait for symptoms to appear.
So this is the Grunow 654 after recap and cleaning. I haven't completely cleaned it all, but this is its first fire up. It did have a issue where the sound kept going out. It would go click and go out and go click and come back and go click and go out, kind of like Christmas tree blinkers. So it had a bad 6F6G output tube. So it's got either an open filament or a filament that as soon as it heats up, it pops open. So I have replaced it. The intermittent audio quit, and it seems to be working really good now.
800-682-9928. Zoo animals are testing positive for COVID-19. 5 tigers at the Cleveland Zoo have tested positive.
To turn around.
Exquisite diamond rings.
Over our mouth and our nose.
$8422. 800-714-8422.
And this is running off of a small, very short piece of wire that was put on here to be used as an antenna. When I button this back up, I'll show more of the front and the dial and the dial glass, which was all intact. It's just that the way this is in the cabinet, the speaker is still tied. There's not a speaker plug. It was just all tied in, and it's kind of hard to take it out. You see I've kind of got it propped up on a thing because it goes on the shelf here. That was the only way I could test it outside the cabinet. This does have shortwave on it, but I'm going to have to clean the band switch and see if that fixes the shortwave issue. But as of right now, just the AM broadcast side works.
Veterans receive specialized care for their unique needs. Veterans with PTSD experience.
So there you go. We'll get it all put back together. I'm going to clean up the cabinet some, put it back together, and we'll take a look at it then.
Maybe pound some coffee. You said, no, I better lay off.
Yeah, better lay off.
No thanks, I'm good.
I'm good. All right, well, Ryan, way to tough it out there. The Ravens have gotten on the board. 7-0 Ravens. 9-point dogs without Lamar Jackson on the road against the Packers, but they get the first lead of the game by a score of 7-0. So, Rich, I'm taking a look here at where we stand right now in the NFC. Packers go into this game 10-3. Later tonight, Bucs will host the Saints. They're 10-3. Cowboys win today. They go to 10-4. Arizona loses to Detroit. They drop to 10-4. Dallas now leaps. The insurance policy. I don't know the last time an apartment owner, building owner went to more than $1 million. And if there is insurance, I just don't think that's going to be a problem. But good for calling. I mean, see, the issue there, and I remember I asked about the umbrella policy. Here's what an umbrella policy does. It covers you over and above whatever your policy limits are. So let's say you have a $250,000 or $100,000 policy renter's insurance. And, of course, the more money you spend, the higher the figure.
What's the situation? The comment says as far as personnel, they go out and get Kaylee Schrock. Of course, Kaylee Schrock, one of the all-time Comet greats. 838 penalty minutes. That is 12th all-time. He is a member of the Comet Hall of Fame. And this will be the first time.
For the day, for Jeff Wilson in San Francisco. Harmon.
These things to let you know how much I love you, man. And woman to woman, I think you understand.
The world's fresh drinking water is shut down, and now you have a third of the light system, the sun, the moon, the stars, that's shut down.
At around the 20.
And that's the Grunow 654. This is daytime right now, and it's picking up a lot of stuff on the upper side of the band with the small antenna, and it picks up a lot more stuff at night. It only has about a 10-foot hank of wire on it using as an antenna right now. But it's a pretty nice performing radio after recap and repair. So there you have it, the Grunow 654.